Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Deep with Kat and Sarah. We were discussing what topic we were going to talk about just before the call, and there's a few ideas we had, and kind of they all coalesced into the idea of a lot of teachers or techniques that people look to have a better life with. Those techniques look at getting better thinking and replacing so-called negative thinking with more positive thinking. And Kathleen and I were talking about how limited that approach is. Now it doesn't actually create transformation. And so I was telling her a little story about my son and football. And so anything you want to add in, Kathleen, before I tell the story about my son and football?
No, nothing. When you shared that, I thought it's going to be, or it's already a blog on your website, but it was such a good example of what we're pointing to here and just such a beautiful story. I want you to read it.
Okay, do you want me to read it
Well,
or
either way,
tell it?
no, whatever you prefer.
Whatever I prefer. I can do either. I might tell it. So, for those of you not in the know, American football season has started and is well underway. Um, So my son is a wide receiver on his high school senior football team. And wide receiver is a position where you get a lot of eyes on you because generally you'll be down the field and the quarterback will be throwing to you. And often there'll be these long passes where you're running and everyone's chasing you and you're looking to get the ball. And so the entire, your whole team, the coaches and everyone watching is looking at you and everyone wants you to catch the ball. So there can be a lot of um, so-called pressure perceived in that position. Um, and my son they had played a game where it was just like absolutely epic. It was like a movie about a high school football team that goes from defeat to glory in this one game. And my son got a really amazing touchdown. And like everyone was going, there was probably people from 3 different high schools there. And the whole crowd was going bananas. And it was like an epic moment for him. And then there's a game once a week. So then next week comes around and he's got a game and he's getting ready to go to school that morning and he's in his room getting ready and I hear him in this sort of small voice. He goes, "Mom, can I talk to you? I need help." And like, all sorts of things are going through my mind. And so I go in his room and he said, "Mom, all I can think about is how I'm going to drop the ball. All I can think about is that I'm not gonna be able to catch today. I'm gonna have bad hands." So they talk about they need to have soft hands, they need to have good hands to bring the ball in. And he goes, "I know that I should be thinking more positively. I know I should be visualizing catching the ball, but I just can't, it won't stick." So he's fighting with himself. He's having these random thoughts of failure and then believing them and then thinking, okay, I gotta replace it with this better thinking. And so, but he's caught in a loop basically in that moment, and he wasn't. So then, as well, the kind of thing he needs to do as a wide receiver, you can't have a lot of thought or thinking. You really have to be in the flow, and you have to just feel where the ball is going to go. Like it often looks magical when they make the really amazing catches because you think, how did you know to put yourself right there where that tiny little ball was going to be? And it's magical. It's if you don't think about it. So he's kind of wrestling with that. And I just sort of got quiet and took a moment and I said to him, "Yes, but who are you before those thoughts?" And he looked really surprised. He goes, "Oh." before the thought, I kind of, he got this grin, like a slow spreading grin. And he looked like he did when he's 5, like this little boy grin. And he goes, "Oh, before those thoughts, I'm just me. And when I'm just me, I can do anything." And that was it. And he got ready for school, went off, and that game he played excellently, made some great catches. And yeah, and he was just him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a perfect example of what we're pointing to here, that it can be a vicious cycle of, thoughts arise, and then we use more thinking to try to come up with better thinking, when we can just get aligned to that essence of who we really are, that is free of thought, that is intuitive, that can play in the zone, that doesn't even require the brain or the intellect. Not that he didn't do a lot of training, but out there on the field, he doesn't need thinking. He doesn't need a better thought to just go out there and be in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great example of how we're designed to be in the moment and to respond and let our bodies do in the moment. And yeah, so many different things. I hear people say, well, I have to get a better mindset. I have to get better thoughts. I have to visualize. I have to this, I have to that. All of those approaches, it keeps you in that thought level, and you never actually take your eyes off the thought. So then you're never present. You're never just me. You're never tapping into your high performance natural qualities that you have just by being born. And yeah, it blows my mind how simple, because it's just like, well, take your eyes off that.
It's so simple, Sarah Joy, that we miss it.
Yeah.
We're so identified, like, and that was, I mean, probably the icing on the cake for me when he said, "Oh, I'm just me." And so the I that we are is this pure potential, unconditional love, you know, prior to thinking, prior to our psychology, prior to even, even I'm a wide receiver. It's just, you can't put words to it, but we all know it. We've all touched that, where it's always there. It's what we always have been. But we identify with our thoughts and the story of me and my life and my ability on the football field. And that's not denying that it's not to say that we're not a body and a personality, but it's all constructed in thought. It can only, right, form only exists in thought.
Mhm.
And I love also, like, you said something about, like, when he was 5. And
Yeah.
I think pre language, right? They say it's like 18 to 24 months, really, where we really don't, we're just being. We don't have language. We don't have us, them, me. We're just purely in, experience through our 5 senses, and we don't have language yet. So So thought isn't even part of identifying with or who we are. So when he said that, I'm just me. Of course, you saw him when he was, you know, a pure, innocent, you know, youngster.
Yeah.
But it is pervasive in our culture that we need to, you said all the things, affirmation, positive thinking, get better thinking. Um, I need more confidence. I need more self esteem. I need to work on thinking better of myself. And that's all on behalf of a self that isn't the true self.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not transformative, because it's like a dog chasing its tail. There's no end to better thinking on behalf of a me that is just made of thought. When in essence, if we can drop the thinking like your son did and just connect to our true nature, then there's no need to get better thinking. We just go out and play.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we cook up a batch of cookies and they're burnt and we're trying to scrape off the burnt part. And maybe we'll put frosting on the burnt cookie and no one will notice. If you have a bad thought, we'll put in a good thought and you can just throw the whole thing out or just take your eyes off it. It dissolves. Like the nature of thought is it's fluid. And we're trying to take this fluid thing and then compress it and drive it through a form or something, but it's like we're so much bigger than that to start with. And yeah, it it had just come to me in that moment to ask him, who are you before that thought?
Yeah.
And it jolted him out of that. And he went, oh. And
And
it,
Sarah Joy, he didn't have to think about it. He knew.
well, and that's what I find so fascinating too, because we're not creating anything when we talk about the good feeling or we often talk about the feeling of you or the feeling of who we are and how it's peaceful, it feels like love, it feels like contentment. That's not anything that we're creating, it's there all the time. And we're going too fast in our thoughts, we're too attached to them. We're living in the feeling of the thoughts rather than the feeling of who we are. And so it's so fascinating to me. It takes a second to jolt out of the thought and the 5-year-old comes back, or the good feeling is there. We're not having to construct it at all.
Because it's
No.
always it is, you don't have to find it, create it. It is. It just is. It is what we are. Always what we always have been, what we always will be.
Mhm.
It's right here. It always has been.
Yeah. Yeah. I came across a quote today. Is it a good time to say about my quote? I'm not going to read the whole
I love it. I love that quote that you shared.
thing. So I don't actually, I saw this on Instagram. So I think it's attributed correctly, but I have no idea. I'll just say that as a caveat. So it was a longer quote from Jim Carrey, the actor, about when he was reading books by Eckhart Tolle, how he says, I suddenly got it and I woke up. And he talked about how thought is illusory, and he realized that it was responsible for a lot of suffering, but it wasn't real. And the part I really liked, well, I mean, I liked the whole thing, but I liked, he says, suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom. And I saw that I'm bigger than what I do, bigger than my body. And yeah, that feeling of who we are before, before everything, before all thought, is expansive freedom. And we're the creators of it all. We're the creators of our experience of life through using thought, which is a really cool toy. But if we don't like what we get, or if we're stuck, yeah, we just go back to us. And we can create again, or we can just be us. Just be and flow. Yeah.
Mhm.
Catch
You
all the
said
balls.
we can just be, you said we can just be us, and I thought you said we could just be us.
Oh, we can just be us. We can just be ourselves.
Be ourselves.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I think we can, it feels to me like almost like two types of operating systems. And I don't mean separate. It's like it's all the same, but like an operating system that, and maybe they operate at the same time, but sort of the thought mechanism doing its thing, and then the beingness, being ourselves, as thought is doing its thing. It's almost like the us that we are, the being us, holds the, so many metaphors for it, like we're the screen and thought is being projected on the screen, or we're watching this movie, or just the space that it all happens in. And we can put on our football uniform and play a wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the expansiveness, that was the liberation, the freedom that Jim Carrey, if that was him, spoke about. Is when you see it, when you have the, when you have a taste of it, I guess it's pretty cool. It's very liberating to go, oh yeah. And I think we said it maybe before we hit record, or maybe after. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
It is so simple, and we miss it.
Well, and that's also, it's coming back to my mind. That's what real insight is. Insight or sight into the truth of the human experience. And that creates transformation. And so I find I talk a lot about transformation with clients, or prospective clients especially. And with prospective clients, a lot of times people will say, or they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, I know that. I have to get a better mindset." Or but yeah, the thought-based approaches, you might get a small increase of improvement in one life area, but it's work, and the work never ends. Just you always have to be on top of your thoughts then. But it's funny because that approach looks silly. Why would you do that? You can just let it go and go play.
Yeah, yep, I think so. And that's okay too, if somebody's been doing a lot of trying to get better thinking, um, but we're just, pointing to something here that somebody might want to try on. Like, just consider whether thought is worth attaching to, identifying with, believing in the first place. Like, what if you just said, like your son said, oh, I can just be me. I don't have to think. I can just go play and be me.
Yeah.
I think our culture conditions us to believe the other way is, there's just so much in psychology and self-help and even in the spiritual realm and, in religious organizations that we need to get better thinking. And so what we're saying here is maybe counterintuitive to that paradigm. This is different. And it's, as you and I have seen in our own lives and with our clients, like it can be very transformative.
Yeah, it's sometimes it comes down to knowing the nature of thought because it is fluid and it's illusory, as we think Jim Carrey said. But it is, it's an illusion and it's not actually solid. It melts away or as soon as you stop thinking about something, it's no longer real or there. I'm thinking of examples of somebody who might be well, okay, I don't know if that's a good example. But if you stop thinking about something, you're not feeling it anymore often. Yes. Anyway, yeah, it's fluid is my point. But yeah, all those approaches in psychology look to solidify and put meaning on thought. Uh,
Yes.
I was talking with someone who's in university taking psychology courses, and they were talking about what a big problem intrusive thoughts are. And so they described to me what intrusive thoughts are, because I thought, well, what do you mean by that? And what this person described, I thought, oh, well, everybody gets that at some point. Some thought comes into your head that you'll have a car accident, or some thought comes into your head that something that's so random and you wouldn't want. And but if you don't give it two thoughts, it goes away. And it flows on by and it dissolves. They were looking at it, labeling it, calling it an intrusive thought, and then saying, well, this means that the person having these intrusive thoughts has has a problem, has a diagnosis, a has to control them, has to control themselves. Oh no, what if they go and do the thing the intrusive thought says? And it just looked like, oh my goodness, you're piling thought upon thought upon thought and creating this problem that never existed in the first place. Because the brain will fire off all kinds of crazy thoughts. Like, what if a unicorn runs by? I don't know. I don't think I have to sit around planning for what do I do if a unicorn runs by? And what it means about me that I had that thought. Oh no, I'm a unicornist.
Yeah. Fluid, transitory, always changing, and in fact, contradicting itself. I mean, thought, you know, tells one version of the story, and the next time, wake up the next day and it's got a whole new take on what it was saying yesterday. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can wrap up and we can realize that before thought, we are just us.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go off and be just me for the rest of the day.
Sounds like a good idea. Well, thank you everybody for listening in.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.